Howdy and good day, fellers. In algebra, we'll be going over your quiz from CO23. Went quite well, especially once I changed the multiple choice questions to check boxes. You could check more than one. So for those of you, especially in 7th grade algebra and some folks in 8RK, if your score was lower than it should have been because you can only select one option for this, I apologize for that. But I did fix it for 8CC, so things looked better there, even though 8RK, 7 algebra, you were doing good things as well. But definitely, the two that gave folks the most trouble were the last two, which is converting from standard form to slope-intercept form. And so today, we'll kind of take a look back at the binder page for CO23, review how to do that, and then that's what your quiz will be on today, as well as a little bit of review from function notation, just because that was something that needed some more practice with and don't want to get too far away from it. So yeah, that's kind of what's on tap for today, Monday of a short week. Happy Thanksgiving to all, even though I'll probably wish you that again tomorrow. I will be out again today and Tuesday, but I'll be back Monday the 30th for the last week of the trimester. Okay, so anyway, so our goal here was to be able to look at an equation or a graph and identify what is your slope and what is the y-intercept. And we talked about the slope-intercept form, and how that m variable is your slope, the b variable is the y-intercept. So when it says what is true about the graph of the equation below, select two options, and you have y equals -4/3 x plus 3, yes, the y-intercept is at 0, 3 because that's that b variable, right? Plus 3, positive 3, that's where it's going to cross the y-axis. The slope, -4/3, okay, that's that m variable there. And remember that negative sign, -4/3, can apply to either kind of the whole fraction out in front of the whole thing the way it's written there, or it could be -4 over +3, or even +4 over -3. All three of those would mean the exact same thing. Okay, so the slope is -4/3. It is a linear function because it is written in slope-intercept form, right? That's kind of one of those things that tells us that it is a linear function. And the slope is not -4 over -3. That is not true. If the slope was -4 over -3, well, a negative divided by a negative is a positive. So it would actually be +4/3, which it is not in the equation. So that was the first one. The first two options were what I was looking for. Second one, what is true about the graph below? Can I make it all fit on here? Select, oh, I can get rid of this, can't I? I learned that. Okay, so an order pair on the line is 0, 2. So we look for 0, 2, and that seems to be on the line there. So that one's good. The domain of the line is from x equals -4 to x equals +5. So going back to domain and range a little bit, remember the domain are all the x values that are represented by this relation. All of the x values represented by this relation. And even though our arrows kind of seem to, well, actually this one goes out to -5 here, but on the graph it shows that it goes from -5 to +5, but the fact that it's a line, remember the domain of any line is that all reals symbol, right? All solutions. So it's not just what the graph shows. Those arrows mean it goes on forever and ever and ever, and every x value is going to be a part of this graph at some point. So that one is no good. The slope of the line is 2 over 1, or the slope of the line is 1 over 2. Okay, so basically you had to look at this line and find the slope. Is it 2 over 1 or 1 over 2? So we look at ordered pairs where it passes through a corner. Here are several of them here. And basically what I was looking at for this question was, were you doing the vertical change first or the horizontal change first? Because if you do the vertical change first, which you should, we're going up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2, right? So the slope would be up 1 over 2, that vertical change listed first, the slope is going to be 1/2, not 2 over 1. Okay, 2 over 1 will look like this. I'm just going to make a random point here. A slope of 2 over 1 would be up 2 over 1, right? Up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1. A steeper line than what we have, because that vertical change is greater than the horizontal change. That's going to make it for a steeper line. If the horizontal change is greater than the vertical change, which is what we have, then it's not going to be quite as steep. Okay? Then we get to rewrite the equation in slope-intercept form. So just to review our 2 steps briefly. Okay? Our first step was to move our x term over using opposite operations. The second step was to divide by the coefficient to y. And so overall, all 3 algebra classes together, only about 50 to 60% of you got these next 2 questions correct, which tells me that we do need to work on them again. Okay, so that first step of moving that x term over, since it's a positive 12x, I'm going to move it over by subtracting 12x. Okay, and like we talked about, on the left side, it cancels out. You're left with just that y term there. But on the right side, we can't combine that to get 15x, 27 minus 12. That's why 15x wasn't even an option as an answer choice, because I didn't even want you to think about that being something that you could possibly do. Okay, we have to keep them separate because they're not like terms. And because in slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, that x term comes first, we're just rewriting this with a negative 12x and a positive 27. A negative 12x and a positive 27. Okay. Then to get y by itself, and this was one of the answer choices here. And so if you selected option B, or the second option here, you forgot to divide by the coefficient to y, which is step 2 of this process that we are reviewing today. Okay, so this is not the correct answer because we're not done yet. We haven't divided by 3. So when you go ahead and divide by 3 to cancel it out on the left side and get y by itself, if you only divided the x term by 3, you'd have gotten negative 4x plus 27, which was the third option here. That's incorrect because when you divide that right side by the coefficient, you're not just dividing the first term. You are dividing both terms. So it's 27 divided by 3 as well, and that gets us a positive 9. Okay, so that is the last option here, negative 4x plus 9. The other 2, y equals negative 4x equals 9. Whoops, that's, hopefully no one picked that because that's not even, that's not, whoops, not have 2 equal sign there. The top answer would be if you move the 12x over without subtracting it, just moved it. Just say, oh, I'm going to take this 12x on the left and put it on the right side and keep it 12x and just put it there. When you move things from one side to the other, okay, you've got to be using opposite operations. And since you're subtracting 12x from that right side, it needs to be a negative 12x when you write the equation. So that's why that one was no good there. And so we have y equals negative 4x plus 9. Just a word here on that. I dropped it. I cannot believe I dropped the eraser again. I swear to you, I'm not trying to do that. That is just how clumsy I am. I don't know why this does not. It's a small eraser. Okay. Anyway, let's see here. When we are at this step, 3y equals negative 12x plus 27, and we're dividing both sides by 3. You can think about this as, that's in parentheses when you divide by 3 because you're dividing the whole side by 3. So kind of like the distributive property, instead of distributing something in and multiplying, both terms by a coefficient, it's kind of like and there goes the pen. Oh boy. It's kind of like we are dividing both terms, right, by that 3 on the outside. Okay, very common mistake not to divide both terms by whatever the coefficient to y is. So it's happened before. I've seen it. We'll work through it together. We'll get to the other side. Things will be fine. But it's one of those things you need to remember. Okay. The next one, 5x plus 6y equals 12. So again, step one here, move that x term over. We have a positive 5x. So we're going to be subtracting 5x from both sides. And notice I did not give you anything with the 7x as an answer here. Okay. In fact, I gave you more or less the correct slope each time involving that 5 and the 6. Okay, because I want you to see, oh, that's how it's going to end up here. We can't combine 12 and negative 5x, so we write it negative 5x plus 12. Okay. Divide both sides by 6, which again, I'm going to kind of write it the parentheses way here. We're dividing everything on that right side by 6, both the negative 5 and that positive 12. Oh, it makes like a heart shape. I heart math too. Okay. So anyway, on the left side, y is by itself because they cancel out. On the right, a negative 5 divided by 6 doesn't work out evenly, but we don't really care, right? Slope is a fraction anyway. Don't write a decimal. Slope is a fraction anyway, so we just keep it negative 5 divided by 6, negative 5/6. And then positive 12 divided by 6 is positive 2. So basically, your 4 options here, 2 of them have a negative slope, right? 2 of them have a positive slope there. And then of the slopes that are negative and of those that are positive, one's got a constant of 2, the other one's got a constant of 12. So the correct sign of the slope, negative 5/6, that you subtracted 5x from both sides, that eliminates 2 of them. And then, did you divide everything on the right side by 6 or just the negative 5? Okay. If you answered negative 5/6x plus 12, you didn't divide everything by 6. If you answered y equals negative 5/6x plus 2, then you got it right, because that's the correct answer. Okay. All right. Let's look at the lesson page. This is the second page of it, kind of where we left off on Friday. And it says, identify, you already have this filled out, but identify the slope and y-intercept of the equation or the graph. You may need to write the equation in slope-intercept form first. To convert from standard form to slope-intercept form, step 1, move the x term to the other side using opposite operations. Okay. And then step 2, divide everything, all 3 terms, right, by the coefficient to y. Okay. So in these first 3, this first row actually, they're already in slope-intercept form for you. So just like we kind of did on Friday, you look at that equation, you think about it as being in, we'll do the second one here, y equals mx plus b. Well, what's your value for m? What's the coefficient to x? That's going to be your slope. So the slope, that m, is negative 1/6. The y-intercept, that value for b, is going to be at 0, negative 10. It's a negative 10 because that sign comes with it. It belongs to the 10. Okay? So that's how you can look at an equation and just automatically know something, 2 things about this line, where it's going to cross the y-axis and what the slope is going to be. The other 6, did I give you 6 here? Or did I give you 9? Only 6. The other 6 here are in standard form and need to be converted to slope-intercept form. Okay, and so 4 of these questions are going to be on your quiz for today. maybe 3, and I'll give you a graph one too, because there's some graph at the bottom there. But at least 3 of these will be on your quiz today. So looking at these, we haven't done one with a negative x term. So we'll do the second one here. Okay, negative 8x minus 10y equals negative 40. Lots of negativity actually going on here. And since that x term is negative, and our first step is to move it to the other side using opposite operations, the opposite of a negative 8x is a positive 8x. Okay, so we're going to start by adding 8x to both sides to cancel it out from the left side. That negative 10y, that sign sticks with it. So negative 10y is left, and then negative 40 plus 8, again, we can't do it because they're not like terms. We're going to write it with our x term first, positive 8x, and our constant of negative 40. 8x minus 40. Okay. Now, dividing by that coefficient of y, our second step, and we're dividing everything on that right side by negative 10. And I'm just going to do it in red this time. Get that heart. There we go. Look at that. Okay. On the left side, cancel out. Y is by itself. Here, an 8 divided by negative 10 doesn't work out evenly. And if you think of the fraction 8 tenths or negative 8 tenths, well, that just simplifies to be negative 4/5. And that's going to be the slope that we are going to write. Again, no decimals here. Okay, just take that fraction. If you can simplify it, which we can here, do it. And then negative 40 divided by negative 10, positive 4. So y equals negative 4/5 x plus 4. Okay. If you get one that, the next one, x plus 3y equals 15, remember that coefficient to x is a 1. So when we subtract x from both sides, 15 minus x isn't 14x. We're going to rewrite this to be negative x plus 15. And when we divide everything by 3 here, this is where kind of remembering that x has a coefficient of 1, because negative 1 divided by 3, or negative 1/3, that's our slope. Okay? And then 15 divided by 3, don't forget about that. That constant, 15 divided by 3 is positive 5. So y equals negative 1/3 x plus 5. This line has a slope of negative 1/3, and it crosses the y-axis at positive 5. So x term over using opposite operations, then divide by that coefficient. Divide everything by that coefficient to y. Down below, it says plot the ordered pairs on the corner plane, connect them with a line, and identify the slope and y-intercept of that line. I'll put one of these on your quiz as well. So you'll do the work on the page, since you can't plot the points on the Google quiz. So you'll do the work on the page, and then just the answer will be what's the slope and the y-intercept. So let's do the second one, just because. So we have negative 6, negative 7. So over negative 6 on the x-axis, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, down 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There is negative 6, negative 7. And then 0, 8 on the y-axis is up here. And of course, I get myself a super long line to try and connect these dots. Ugh, not very good. But anyway, find the slope and the y-intercept of this line. Well, the y-intercept is actually given to you, right? Whenever x is 0, that's kind of the definition of a y-intercept. X is 0. That means it's crossing the y-axis at that point. So the y-intercept is 0, 8. And we can get that from the ordered pairs, or by looking at the graph, where's across the y-axis. And for this one, the slope, we're going up, is that 15? And over 6. Up 15 over 6. Of course, we are not going to write that as 15/6. Right? We're going to reduce that divide both by 3, and we get a slope of 5/2. And notice, if I do go up 5 over 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over 2 back on the line, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over 2 back on the line, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over 2 back on the line again. Okay? So that's what you're doing on those bottom 3 there. You are graphing them, plotting the points, and then use that graph to find the slope and the y-intercept. You could, if you wanted to, check this slope by going back to our slope formula if that was something that you kind of struggled with. Label them x1, y1, x2, y2, and plug them in. Y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. 8 plus 7 is 15. 0 plus 6 is 6. We get the same 15/6 or 5/2 that we got by counting. So multiple ways to get the answer there. Obviously counting is probably easier. But okay, your homework is the CO23 quiz over on Google. More practice with going from standard form to slope-intercept form. And then we'll see what the future holds for us tomorrow. So that's all for today. Have a good one. Thanks for watching. Get that quiz taken. And do not forget to like and subscribe.